Susan is the primary nurse for Contoso Healthcare at Home. She leads a team of remote nurses and aides, and she and her teammates, they need to travel extensively across Bellevue metropolitan area because the Contoso Healthcare Hospital is located in Seattle. So to be successful, she needs to have easy access to her patient records. She needs to have a visual representation of where her patients are located to plan the routes accordingly. It's useful for her to check the weather in advance to be able to pack accordingly when the routes are longer. And she needs to to align with Contoso Healthcare hospital culture because she's still a part of that team. Susan has actually worked in Contoso Healthcare Hospital for 8 years, but then her family relocated to Maple Valley, and she was very excited at first because that would be an opportunity for her to spend more time with her family. She had more flexibility to arrange her routine around the needs of her young kids. But then after a while, she really started feeling that she was missing the lunch breaks because they were very good opportunities for her to learn from others. And she was starting to feel that she was part of no real team. So she was feeling a bit isolated. With the implementation of Microsoft Teams at both Contoso Healthcare and Contoso Healthcare at Home, she was able to regain that feeling of belonging, which was enhanced by fine-tuning solutions for Teams that now allow her to keep aligned with the culture of Contoso Healthcare while still being part of Contoso Healthcare and doing her work as part of the Contoso Healthcare at Home team. So let's dive into Susan's weekly routine to be able to better understand how exactly she's using Microsoft Teams and bind tuning solutions. So when Susan is not on duty, she usually likes to stay up to date with what's happening at Contoso Healthcare Hospital because, as I've said, Contoso Healthcare at Home is still part of Contoso Healthcare Hospital. And she has a friend, John, who still works at Contoso Healthcare Hospital, and he's responsible of PR and comms at the main hospital, and he talks a lot about culture and values. And because he's responsible for the communications and PR, he's the one using bind tuning apps for Teams, and he has been updating a lot of content that until now was mostly stored in SharePoint, and he is now bringing all of that inside Teams, and he feels that his work is now being suddenly more valued and recognized by his peers because it's being seen where people are actually spending their day. So Susan started to check Contoso Healthcare Hospital team more often. Let's take a look at how she does it. So this is the main team of Contoso Healthcare Hospital. We'll take a look at this one in a second. So Contoso Healthcare Hospital, and John in particular, keeps this message from the board slider updated. And actually, in this case, he's updating this with corporate videos, but the bind tuning slider can be used to show images or plain text. It's very easy to configure, so it can be used for lots of dynamic content. Susan also takes a look at the alerts because until bind tuning alerts were implemented, Susan used to take a look at the messages spread through conversations here. But then it was very often very common for her to miss bits and pieces of the conversations because things tend to get lost between the chatting. So now all the teams that have something really important to say, they add the alerts here, and content is shown in different colors to highlight different alert levels. So that's a way to grab people's attention. And finally, Susan takes a look at the Contoso healthcare news that our friend John is updating in SharePoint, and that is being immediately added to the teams here. Again, people are reading them more often and keeping more engaged because it's exactly the same place where they go for their training, for their alerts, for their conversations. When Susan is planning her month of work, she leverages the other team, so Contoso Healthcare at Home. This week is Thanksgiving, which means there is a special food delivery being planned. And delivering meals is very rewarding, but meals need to be hot, routes need to be planned to save gas and time, and when they're traveling far, nurses and aides need to pack accordingly and they need to consider if there's going to be rain or if there's going to be really hot. So when they were building and thinking their experience around teams, Contoso Healthcare at Home needed to build a team that had the features that addressed all these needs and purposes. So let's take a look at how this was done. Oh, there we go. So Mark from the outreach team has just called Susan, letting her know that the menus for Thanksgiving had been added to the main team's page. There you go. Here they are. As you can see, and this is exactly the same Tiles app that we've seen several times before. It just has a different configuration. So Mark called Susan and he tells her that she should double check that the orders that have been allocated to this weekly meal planning are matching the patient records, and that no patient that has a food allergy has a wrong order assigned, or in other words, that all patients with food allergies got a special order assigned. So using Bind Tuning Filters app, Susan is able to filter her patient records. And following Mark's request, she's actually able to add an extra filtering. So let me show you how she can do it. There we go. We're filtering for city and birthday, but we can add allergy reactions. There we go. So it looks like only Amelia has food allergies. And we can click on her tile and open her patient record to see exactly to which she is allergic. It looks like it's peanuts. And as you can see, and let me open what is here. So as I've explained you before, when we were seeing the other scenario, the more corporate scenario, the trainings, this is exactly the same app in a different context. So this is the list of patients that is being shown in these tile formats. So all the customers being added to this list will show to the list here, will show as a tile here. So we have the capability of transforming information in these beautiful tile formats and the capability of filtering in a very easy and convenient way. So, sorry, something happened. There we go. To be efficient when she's planning her routes, Susan verifies the patient addresses. And that's because she needs to save gas, time, and she needs to take care of her teams and her patients as well. So this map provides a visual representation of where her patients are located and also of their houses for making new team members life easier, so they can easily recognize where their patients are currently living. So, for example, if we check Amelie here, we can see that she's living in Bellevue and that she has a house that is as gorgeous as she is. And it's a helpful tool for the route planning in the Contoso Healthcare Hospital. It was showing the different centers. So it's a very flexible tool for in both scenarios. As an added precaution, Susan and her team always check the local weather using the tiles weather. And in this case, we're using the same bind tuning application that was showcased to build the interface from the beginning, but now with a different configuration to show current weather and for weather forecast. If there's an urgent request from a non-registered patient, Susan and her team can always use the My Weather app that allows the change location feature. So if Susan has a patient in Auburn, sorry, there we go. The Teams app will update the weather accordingly. At the end of every month, Contoso Healthcare and Home hosts a Teams meeting with remote team leaders, including Susan. They reflect on best practices, lessons learned, and at the end, Susan is in charge of uploading information into a centralized place in Teams. And for that, Susan uses Bind Tuning Accordion app. I'll show you how that looks. There you go, best practices and FAQ. So again, very easy to configure. She does that herself while our kids are doing their homework. So with implementation of Microsoft Teams and Bind Tuning apps at both Contoso Health and Contoso Healthcare at Home, Susan has easy access to the tools, best practices, and news from Contoso Healthcare Hospital, while keeping at the same time her own team at Contoso Healthcare and Home organized, engaged, and focused on what matters the most at the end of her day, her patients and their families. Off to you, Beatrice.
All right, so let me share my screen. Please let me know if you see it. Not yet.
Yep, it's up.
Yeah, okay, good. So before we proceed, and since there was a question on how we actually build the scenarios, let me go back a couple slides just to remind you that everything that we have seen is built with Bind Tuning apps. So currently Bind Tuning has 19 apps available for Microsoft Teams. These are all the ones that you see here in blue. And what you have seen is different configurations of these apps to actually build and comply to different requirements. The same application has been shown over and over and over in different scenarios and complying to different needs. And what we have been seeing is the flexibility of these applications. All right, moving on. So what is actually the fastest way to having a working team? The truth is that it's templates. So we actually call them also starter kits. And we are now bringing into Microsoft Teams our long experience in templating from Office 365. We have been doing this for a couple of years now. We have been crafting experiences vertically by industry, and Bind Tuning starter kits are really ready to launch packaged scenarios. And in a few clicks, you actually got a repeatable scenario ready to use over and over again. So these are actually carefully crafted, very industry-specific scenarios. They comply to each specific industry requirements, to each industry needs, and to very specific scenarios. They typically include different elements. For teams, they include multiple channels, they include preset tabs, applications, and in some cases, even content. And everything is added and pre-configured, so meaning that we actually did all the heavy lifting for you and thinking about these scenarios for specific business needs. Those are repeatable scenarios. So this means that you get easy deployments of these standard scenarios and also of industry best practices. And this is something very important, being able to repeat best practices. And this ensures a unified user experience across multiple teams. They can all be deployed in, you'll see, seconds, not minutes. And this means that it's very easy to scale up the deployment of repeatable scenarios from one to an endless number of teams. And the best of all is that all these deployments are fully automated. And we have developed a 100% visual interface, so meaning that there is no code involved, no need for accessing or copying PowerShell commands or developing your own PowerShell commands, and everything is really deployed in seconds. So let's go and jump to showing you the deployment of a template. And let me just go back here to my teams. I want to quickly show you the teams that I have deployed at this point. And here, what I have is the new BindTuning Azure application. So this application in the configuration that you see right now will only be available next week. We have a launch date set for November 25th. We're very, very excited to get this out. And this involves the experience of all the BindTuning products. Here, what you see is related more to Office 365. So the templates, the themes that we have for actually branding Office 365 experiences. Here, we have access to the list of web parts. And here is actually where the process of deploying those applications to teams starts. And then the templates. And in this deploy area, you can see the list of templates that we currently have available. So this is a mixed list, Office 365 plus Teams templates. And you can see that we have very, very focused industry-specific templates. What I'll do now is I will filter these to show only the Microsoft Teams templates. And I want you to take a quick look at the teams that I have. So let's go to the bottom of all the teams. And I think I'm going to deploy one of these stored templates. Let's think that I'm the owner of a chain of stores, and I want to deploy a team for one of my stores that is just opening up. So it's as easy as coming to the list of templates, and I'm gonna say, okay, I want to deploy this template. I will enter, since I am a tenant admin, I have permissions to do this deployment. So I will enter my Office 365 credentials. I will name this team, so new store. And I could also add a description and set the team as private or public. And I will just start the deployment, confirm. I don't have to enter my password since I have already gave consent to the application within BindTuning. And if I open up this panel, I will see that the deployment has started. And if you take a look at Teams, you will see that new store has just been added and that I already have channels added as well. So this is a very, very simple template. It only has 3 channels, but we could have very complex templates being added with multiple channels, multiple tabs, different applications and content, as I mentioned. Let me refer that the templates that you see here for Microsoft Teams, these are the ones that will be launched next week alongside with a new version of the BindTuning application. And these initial templates, the first ones to be available are templates that were created based on what Microsoft makes available for industry scenarios. So we're starting with some very, very simple templates, but you will see this list growing to bring all the goodness of what you have seen from Francisca's presentation. And we are now actually in the process of transforming all these experiences into Teams templates. So let me go back to presentation. Note that not only you will be able to deploy these kind of preset templates with BindTuning, but also we have the ability to create custom templates depending on your own scenarios. So these custom templates can be really anything. Let's say that you have the need to define what's a department template and deploy it over and over again, to define what's a project management template, what's an events management template, manage, for example, contracts, local offices, teams, and so on and so on. These can include structure, content, and also user targeting. So there's a lot that we can add in the deployment of these templates. And we can also even define the workflow that is created to deploy the template, meaning that if there is any kind of approval process that has to be integrated in the template, we can do it as well. So what we're really happy to bring onto you is an improved governance. This is not a true governance tool, but it actually brings additional governance possibilities, and we're actually really excited to have the solution available. Let me tell you that you can start right now with some options. BindTuning has already 2 solutions published on AppSource and on the OCP catalog. So the first one is the BindTuning Teams collaboration space. You can take advantage of our expertise in building collaborative environments by deploying this scenario. It accelerates Teams adoption, and it seamlessly integrates applications, adding a lot of functionality to what you get out of the box. The other space is the Teams collaboration space for education. And in this one, we have our expertise in the education industry already embedded into the template. As I said, what you just saw as the initial set of templates that we will make available, these templates are right now available sort of as PowerShell scripts by Microsoft. And I can quickly show you that this link is exactly this page. And Microsoft actually crafted a few basic experiences for healthcare, education, retail, and government. And these are the ones that we are making available right now at BindTuning. So you will have the possibility, as you have just seen, to deploy these scenarios in seconds. And the following step for us is actually making available those very, very interesting scenarios that we have with rich interfaces using BindTuning applications. If you wanna request a meeting with us, and if you wanna keep the conversation going, we would really, really love to. We are completely available to hear it from you, to understand a little bit more of your specific requirements for Teams and how the BindTuning solution can address those requirements, and how with all these templating solutions we can actually help you leverage, scale, and grow your business. So feel free to just take a picture of this QR code. This will lead you to a small bot that will help you actually get that demo set up or get a meeting schedule with the BindTuning team. You also have the link to get started with a BindTuning account, so bindtuning.com/get-started. This will actually get you started in the application. In a week, you will have the application that you have just seen, or you can email us directly at info@bindtuning.com.